Good morning. It's Wednesday, 2nd of June, and I wanted to share with you a new episode of Innovation Made Easy podcast that has been published this morning, 9 a.m. Central European Time. And this week's episode is about imposter syndrome. And and when you hear the episode, you'll see that I feel a little bit uncomfortable with the term imposter syndrome because it sounds like a disease. And I don't think it's a disease. It's something that our mind produces in terms of thoughts, and actually, it's not all bad. So I was trying to see, is there something else we could call it? Is there imposter thoughts or mindset? But of course, imposter syndrome is a very accepted way of terminology of this behavior, and therefore, at the end, I actually stick with it. So the point is that so many of us are affected by this imposter syndrome. And what it means, it was interesting because I was talking to somebody yesterday. I'm not saying who that is, and because otherwise he's not going to be very happy. And when I mentioned the word, besides our kids referring to it, so they're talking about this imposter. I think it's like a character in some cartoons or some games. The person actually didn't really know what that meant. And I thought it was so interesting. So imposter syndrome is basically when you say to yourself, I'm the smartest person in the room, you feel like you have something, but you don't deserve it. And it affects in a lot of circumstances. It can be privately, professionally. Most of the time, it is treated as something professionally, or is discussed in professional terms. And it's really when you are basically when you're looking at yourself and you're feeling like I'm a fake, they will find out that I'm actually not as good as as I'm pretending to be. And it's really that self-doubt that we have. And the interesting thing is that everybody has that. Sooner or later, in one time in your life, actually everybody faces those thoughts of doubts. And if you've been following me for a while, you know that actually this is something that I'm very passionate about, which is our primitive brain that really wants to protect us, and it's going to offer us those thoughts that don't serve us, that don't really help us move forward and take more risk and embrace courage to do things and do the hard things. So imposter syndrome is really that idea that even despite all the evidence that you have all the rights to sit at that table, or to have that relationship, or to have that success, that there is something in you that is telling you that you're not deserving it. So there is two sides to that. The negative side of it, or the one that we want to be careful about, is of course the fact that it might lead to self-sabotage. And I've spoken about the book from Gay Hendricks a couple of podcasts ago, and he also talks about one of the limiting beliefs of us setting our upper limits is this believing that you are a fraud. So it's really interesting to be observant of some of these thoughts that come to our mind and really challenge them, reminding them, like, is that true? What do I have all the evidence that this is actually not true? So definitely want to be careful in not being our worst enemy and being self-sabotaging our successes, and also not celebrating actually the successes that we have already achieved and really embracing it. And being afraid that we're going to lose it all because this is such a fake. So instead, really enjoying it. Now, the flip side of that is that actually this imposter syndrome could actually play in our favor, because what happens is that in a lot of cases, when you do have this imposter syndrome, you might over prepare. You might really be the most prepared person in the room. So if you're leveraging that imposter syndrome in a positive energy that fuels your desire to actually not want to stand out in the meeting and be the only person that doesn't know the subject matter. So you're actually preparing yourself, and you're rehearsing, and you're studying more, and you're open-minded. That's actually really interesting. And the other thing is also that happens is that sometimes when we don't have anything to lose, we're actually more prone to take risk, right? When you feel like, well, anyway, I'm the idiot here in this room, so I might as well say something that sounds ridiculous. I think this is also so interesting, right? So it becomes then a strength that actually you're going to take more risk than others. Now, in my case, I didn't have that feeling um, of fueling my courage. Or actually, imposter syndrome actually really holds me back. But it's so fascinating to be observant. So if you wanna, I hope you're gonna go and listen to the whole episode and have some reflection about it. Maybe become observant of some of the behaviors that you have been manifesting in some circumstances. So you will find the link to the episode here in the show notes, and of course, just look for Innovation Made Easy podcast and wherever you listen to the podcast. And actually, I really hope that you have subscribed already so that you can get notifications and always be up to speed on which episode is coming up. I wish you a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.